Now let's talk about universal precautions for the general workplace. Most of the time, this is going to be because somebody got injured or ill in the workplace and we have blood or other potentially infectious materials in the environment that have to be cleaned up. But no one specific employee is actually designated to do so. If they were designated to do that cleanup, they would fall under the Type A category under the bloodborne pathogens rule as the high-risk employee that must be trained in bloodborne pathogens before they actually get into an exposure incident. If an individual actually has that job description, they no longer fall under the general universal precautions, but then are a Type A employee and should go through the full bloodborne pathogens training program, like at probloodborne.com. Now, for the general workplace or general employee who is volunteering or just happens to have to clean it up, this is for you. The most important thing to do is to protect yourself against exposure of the potentially infectious material. Now, people have asked me a lot, how do I know if it's potentially infectious? That's a great question. You can't, unless you actually can identify it under a microscope or through laboratory testing. So the best way to protect yourself is with gloves. Putting them on is not that big a deal. The biggest thing you want to do is make sure there are no holes. So just twisting them around themselves one time, checking for any air leaks is a great way to test them for little pinholes or some kind of cut or breakage in the glove. Then you just put them on like a normal glove. Now we can work with our solution. 1 part household bleach to 9 parts water. Now, what does this mean? If I were to make 1 cup just for the chlorine bleach, and I fill that up to the 1 cup line and I put it into a pail, I would then pour in 9 more additional cups with regular cold tap water. This would make the proper solution to be able to kill most hepatitis, HIV, and other infectious diseases. This bleach solution can then either be applied using a rag or it could be applied with a spray bottle. If I thought that I might become contaminated through any kind of after spray or splattering, I would want to put on goggles, a face mask, and an apron that would protect me against those infectious diseases. But for the general purpose, let's say we had blood on a tool. I could spray that tool down with the bleach solution, let it set for a bit, and then wipe it down. Once I've wiped it all down and I can't see any more visible contamination, I throw that in the trash. I would then spray the tool one more time with a light mist of that bleach solution and let it air dry from wet to dry. That time is what it takes to disinfect the tool. And it could be a tool like this, it could be a regular fixed tool, it doesn't really matter, or it could even be a work surface for that matter, like a floor, a workbench, or a table. And then once I'm done cleaning up, I can remove my gloves. Now, removing the gloves is a little more tricky than donning them or putting them on. I remove them by touching glove on glove, untucking that hand, wadding the contaminated glove up into the other gloved hand, and then skin on skin. Be careful not to pop or flick the glove, as this can nebulize blood or other potentially infectious material as it snaps or pops. Once this is all on the inside, I throw this away into the trash can as well. Now I take the trash, I wad it up, and I throw it into the normal dumpster. As long as we cannot produce a lot of it, can't wring it out, can't flake it off, we probably don't need to put it into a special biohazard bag. However, if you had a biohazard bag, I think it would be very, very good for communication to put it in a biohazard bag and then put it into the dumpster so that if there was a spill, then the waste management people would know that there's potentially infectious material in that bag. So I don't think it's a bad idea, it's just not legally required. So, these are some simple steps to take in protecting yourself initially. But after you're done removing your personal protective equipment, you still want to wash up at the sink with soap and water. So we're going to wash our hands, We're going to wash up our arms if there's any chance of splatter. If you think it's on your face, we want to wash our face. And then after we're all done, we're going to report any potential exposures to our supervisor. Now, unless you actually got it inside your body, like through eyes, nose, mouth, or into a cut, or it was poked into your body, it's not a true exposure incident and does not need to be reported or followed up on. But if you did get a true exposure, you would first decontaminate and then report to your supervisor immediately. And then they would follow the bloodborne pathogens rule for post-exposure evaluation and follow-up.